I'm Diane Banks. Thanks for joining me this morning. My special guest is Rebekah Silverman. And before I introduce Rebekah to you, I want to read a bit of a letter her friend Katie Collier sent to me. And she says, "Hi, Diane. My name is Katie Collier. I'd like to nominate Chicagoan Rebekah Silverman of Growing Home, Inc. I work with Ms. Silverman at Growing Home, where she's the associate director. Growing Home, Inc. is a Chicago-based nonprofit that helps needy Chicagoans through a job training program focused on urban farming. Rebekah grew up on a farm and has such a belief in her heart for the Growing Home mission. Since starting at Growing Home, she's worked tirelessly to support and also lead the organization, programming, staff, and interns. Thanks for my consideration. Sincerely, Katie Collier." So with that, let's welcome Rebekah Silverman.
Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
Doing great.
So, what do you think of Katie giving you the nomination here? Pretty nice.
Well, that was a really sweet letter. That's really interesting. I worked really closely with her for a while when I was serving as the fundraiser there, and she was my assistant. And I'm glad to have changed jobs because now that I'm not managing her directly, we can be better friends.
Oh, isn't that truth? I know it's hard sometimes, isn't it?
It is. It's been pretty interesting. Of course, that means that now that I've taken on a different role, I manage lots more people, but Katie and I have some good times in the office.
So your responsibilities have grown, so it sounds like you're pretty important in the Growing Home organization.
I guess you could say it that way. I've been with Growing Home about maybe a little more than 4 years now, and when I started, we had about 8 staff members, and I was working directly with our executive director in a very, very small office in the South Loop in Chicago. And now we have about 17 staff members.
Wow.
And we have 4 people in the office, and we're really looking to grow even more in the next year. So I guess I'm important, but I think more than that, I've just been with the organization a while, so my expertise is more valuable for that.
And Rebekah, all of the women I have on this show are humble like you are, so that's why we're here to give you the praise. All right, it is Growing Home, Inc., inc.org. If you want to take a look at the website while Rebekah and I chat. Are you a Chicago girl originally, Rebekah?
I sure am not, actually. I am a transplant from the Southeast. I grew up on a farm in South Carolina.
Oh, neat.
Yeah, my dad and mom grew herbs and other plants to sell. My dad had a nursery there. And I ended up a while ago in the Midwest for college and moved to Chicago after a while, and I've been here ever since.
Okay, and that sounds like a fun way to grow up, was it, on the farm?
I really enjoyed it, but I also didn't really know that many other options. Both of my parents were from New York, so they kind of had a sense of what growing up in the big city was like, and I just was really, really happy most of the time. I was alone a lot of the time, but I was really enjoyed that. I had a tree house, pets. So that was really, really great for me, and I really enjoyed the nature more than I even knew. When I left, that was one of the things that I really missed. So I'm standing in my living room right now, and I can see about 15 plants. And I guess that's where that came from.
Sure. And, it's amazing, too, that a lot of folks who say things like that, where they've had childhoods where, maybe there wasn't as many people around, that's where our great thinkers come from.
I think some of them, a lot of our farmers really love Wendell Berry. He was a poet and an environmentalist. And I do think that there's something about solitude and quiet and working with the land that really lets people have some time to reflect. I mean, that's certainly what drew me to Growing Home initially, was that's how I felt, and that's kind of what the organization is about.
Yeah, you led me right into the question, Rebekah. That's great. So give us an idea. What kinds of things inspired you or led you there?
Well, I kind of decided I wanted to come to Chicago, and I was looking for something that piqued my interest, but I didn't have a lot of specific guidelines about what I really wanted to do. And I have a background in writing and English, and I had done some editorial work, so I knew that I had something to offer an office, and I had all these other interests. And Growing Home was the only interview that I did.
Is that right?
Yeah, I had one interview, and then I came back again. I hadn't put in any other resumes. And Harry, our executive director, called me and said, "I'd like you to start." And so I guess he saw the same thing, which was just, there is something inside me that really believes that agriculture or growing things is incredibly valuable.
Yeah, and so isn't that something? So it felt like home for you.
It did, and I try to, I have friends who say, oh, I'm doing such and such, how should I apply for a job? And I say, man, I have no idea, because I just did this thing. It was Kismet or something.
Yeah, because I know, isn't that something when your work life and your beliefs can blend? It's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, it's been really great for me. I have really enjoyed my time there, and it's a great organization to let its staff grow as well as the folks that we work with.
So walk us through a little bit here, Rebekah, for folks who may not be familiar with Growing Home Inc. And again, the website, if you want to take a look, growinghomeinc.org, what the program is about.
Sure. So we do a couple different things. One is community development, which basically means community outreach focused on healthy eating and nutrition and food and growing food. But our main program is an on-the-job training program for adults who have, I guess the technical term is barriers to employment. I'm putting quotes around that.
Okay.
But what it means is all different kinds of things. We work with folks who have been previously incarcerated for a wide variety of reasons, people who dropped out of school, people who maybe went on disability for a while and then got off, folks with substance abuse problems. For whatever reason, they have a gap in their work history and an interest in getting back into the workforce or kind of getting back on their feet, and an interest in what we're doing. And so we have a 14-week training program where we give them on-the-job skills doing horticulture. So we have urban farms on the south side of Chicago where they are an integral part of our business. So they are helping us and learning at the same time how to grow plants, how to care for them, how to cultivate them, and then how to harvest them and sell them at market. And then at the same time, in the afternoons, they are working every day in our classroom at the Wood Street Urban Farm, which is our main training site, learning a variety of different things. So some days they'll be working on job readiness, so that might include practicing writing cover letters and resumes, or it might involve doing mock interviews. It might even, depending on where someone is, at what skill level they're at, it might involve getting someone to help them set up an email address for the first time. And then we bring it all together with our training staff. We have someone, his title is employment specialist, but what Brad does is work with people to figure out their employment goals and then helps match them with potential employers.
Wow, that's wonderful. So it really takes them through all the steps they need.
We really do, and it's not a long program. 14 weeks is a little more than 3 months, but often by the end of the program, people have moved many steps ahead of where they were when they started. So someone with no work experience suddenly has a resume where they have at least one job, which is the job they did with us. They have a resume. They have maybe a temporary cell phone number. They have an email address that they can use to send out their cover letters, and they're going with our employment specialist to job interviews. So we had a couple folks in our last cohort. We have 2 cohorts per year who ended up working. They're working now at Shed Aquarium and food service.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah. So it's interesting. People come to us with a lot of different backgrounds, and they leave with a lot of different experience, going towards a lot of different experiences. So there are many really fantastic training programs in the city, But I think ours is the one that allows for the most individual independence. So we are recruiting people that we think we can help succeed, and then sending them off wherever they want to go. So maybe about a year and a half ago, we had someone in the program, Jasmine, and she turned out to be an amazing farmer. And she had started, and she had fancy nails, and she was coming to work with really exciting shoes on, and you really got to wear sneakers when you're on a farm. Even if it's in the city, you got to wear sneakers. And we were like, I don't know about Jasmine. And then by the end, she was one of our hardest workers. She had really tapped into this idea of, working in the dirt was really helping her learn about herself. So she had a substance abuse problem, and she was in treatment. And she said, I'm working on this organic farm because our farms are all USDA certified organic. I'm taking home food every week to cook for me and my family, and I'm cleaning out my body and my mind at the same time.
Oh, that's wonderful. And has she kept in touch? Do you know where she is now?
Well, the last I talked to her, and this is the point I was going to get to, is we thought, man, we would love to hire her or find her a farming position.
Yeah.
She wanted to go to mortuary school.
Wow.
and we said, are you really sure that's what you want to do? And she said, yeah, I've looked into it. I'm pretty excited about it. And this, I got my GED while I was in the program here, and I want to go to mortuary school. So we helped her get enrolled.
Wow. I think there's like a book or a movie in all of this.
So it's kind of exciting to see where people go.
Yeah.
And just kind of what it is that they're interested in, or what the spark of growing home leads them to.
Yeah, and it's great because you talked about the independence, and so that's a beautiful thing, knowing that when they get in, that 14 weeks, and that you're growing toward that independence when you finish up.
That's absolutely right. Yeah.
Yeah. And again, on the website, growinghomeinc.org. So for folks who would like to get involved, maybe they have an opportunity to do a little volunteering, or if not, they have the opportunity, and bless your heart if you do, to do some donating.
Well, there's certainly always room to donate. But some things that are available next spring, always in the spring, we have a big annual benefit, and we're actually going to start our benefit planning committee soon. So we're looking for people who have a little bit of free time and maybe some connections to folks who would want to make donations or come to a big party to get involved early on. So that's one thing, and people can email us at info@growinghomeinc.org. And then the other thing is, if you're interested in farming or volunteering with the interns, the best thing to do is come for a tour and speak to someone while you're there. And we have tours at our farm on the south side every other Wednesday, starting at, I believe, 2:30. And there's also a farm stand that happens at the same time. And that information is all on the website if you click on the calendar link.
That's a great idea to come by and take a tour.
That's really, I think that, part of it is it's impossible to really describe what our farm looks like down there, and exactly what it is to find a farm in the middle of the South Side. So my suggestion to people is always to go see it first and have your mind blown, frankly.
Wow.
And then see how you might be useful, because we do have a situation where we are working with about 25 people at a time who we're training to do farming. So we don't need a lot of farming experience necessarily, or farming help from volunteers, but usually if you come down and say, oh man, I see that you need X, let me help with that, or I'm really interested in one-on-one tutoring, and maybe you'll meet someone there.
Yeah, and you've got some gorgeous photos on the website here. This looks amazing.
It's really cool.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I know our listeners, you got to come with me on the website right now. growinghomeinc.org. Look at this. I mean, I know we're talking about it. I didn't realize it was this big and beautiful.
Well,
wow.
So it's about 2/3 of an acre of growing space. It's about a city lot. And we have these things, they're called hoop houses, which means they're unheated greenhouses. and then a little bit of outdoor growing space. And what we do is, people call it a garden, but it's not. It's really a production farm.
Yeah.
If you can imagine rows upon rows of greens or carrots, and right now I was down there the other day. It's beautiful. There's a Swiss chard with colored stems. The tomatoes are about 10 feet tall, no joke. One of our farmers has these tri-colored eggplants that he's bundling, so he has one dark purple, one albino, and one striped purple and white. It's beautiful right now.
Yeah, I'm looking at photos right now of your tomatoes and eggplant and radishes, and they're gorgeous.
Yeah. We actually, like I said much earlier, one of our goals is to bring fresh produce and ideas about healthy eating to maybe underserved communities, is the way to say it. And so we really try to bring food to the people who are in the community where we are. So our farm is located in Englewood, which you may know as kind of a crime-ridden neighborhood.
That's the publicity it gets.
That is the publicity it gets. I will say that I always feel comfortable there. People are very welcoming. I think it's probably more dangerous to the residents than it is to visitors. But there are a lot of kind of matriarchs of families there. A lot of them came up in migrations from the South, kind of like me.
Yeah.
And they all love to cook. So we have, a farm stand there pretty regularly, and produce and cooking demos. And what we really try to do is get as much food into that community as we can, because that community is a food desert.
Yeah.
So there are 2 grocery stores for about 80,000 people.
Wow.
Yeah. And so that's really important to us. And last year, on that 2/3 of an acre, we grew over 5 tons of food.
Isn't that beautiful? And keeping all that great, healthy, organic food right in the community.
Yeah, so that's kind of what we're looking at. Next year, we're working with the city right now to get an extension to that farm that you're seeing the pictures of, which would just about double our growing space. So we'll be able to do even more, and that means that we'll be able to train more people in the program as well.
Oh, that's beautiful. And, you mentioned, is there anything better than cooking with beautiful organic food?
Not hardly.
I can't think of anything.
It's really fun to be down there because our farmers are very generous, and there's just a lot of people will be harvesting, and you'll walk up and they'll say, "Hey, eat this," and they'll slice open a cucumber for you and say, "There's some salt in the processing area. Go salt it and eat it right now, and then come back."
Yeah. So I imagine they're immensely proud. What do your parents think of what you're doing here?
I think they really are excited by it. I've actually just recently taken both of them down to that site, and my mother, who grows tomatoes in South Carolina, couldn't believe it. We have in South Carolina, we have a lot of tomato blight.
Yeah.
So it's hard to grow in the ground there. So she does this very extensive trellising in pots, and she couldn't believe her eyes with these tomatoes, because Illinois, frankly, has a fabulous climate for tomatoes.
Yeah, and this is not to go on a tangent here, but I had something on my webpage about what sad condition our store-bought tomatoes are in. So grow your own, people.
Yeah.
We've got the climate, grow your own.
I will say one of the only bad things about this job is that I have become a tomato snob.
Have you?
Oh, yes. So I've told you about the farm on the south side. We also have a site outside the city in LaSalle County. It's in Marseilles, Illinois. And that's about 10 acres. It used to be the Marseilles Meteorological Station, and the federal government is letting us use it to do additional training out there. And our farmer out there, Tracy Noel, is one of the best farmers I've ever met, first. And she's obsessed with tomatoes. It's astounding. These beautiful heirloom tomatoes, and if you don't like store-bought tomatoes, then an heirloom tomato is the thing to try, because they're so exciting. They hardly taste like anything you've ever had before.
Yeah, no, it sounds wonderful, because I had no idea how bad our store-bought tomatoes can be. Now, this is not to say everywhere, but they talked about, they're grown in sand and they gas them for color, and it's like, good Lord, we're eating these things, and they're hardly natural.
It's it's not even, to me, like, I have a lot of personal beliefs about trying to eat organic when I can, and, I don't buy everything organic because that's very expensive, frankly. But there are a few things that I do like to buy organic, but I almost won't buy tomatoes unless I'm at a farmer's market, not because they're bad for you, because they just taste bad.
Yeah, exactly. When you have a fresh, beautiful tomato that's, organic, there's no comparison.
None.
Yeah. So we'll all start growing our own now.
It's not too hard in Illinois.
No.
It should be fine.
Yeah. Well, this has been wonderful. I wish we had more time, Rebekah. What a wonderful thing, growinghomeinc.org and all of your beautiful work. Thanks for being my guest.
Thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Oh, you're welcome. Again, Rebekah Silverman is the Associate Director of Growing Home, Inc., and you can take a peek at the website and perhaps go on a tour, volunteer, or donate, whatever you can do. I'm Diane Banks. Thanks for being with me this morning.